So, have you ever had that weird feeling that your phone is listening to you? You're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this digital mystery that, let's be honest, affects all of us. How ads really track you online.
I mean, you know the drill, right? You look up a new pair of hiking boots, maybe just for a second, and then for the next week, it feels like those exact boots are just stalking you across the internet. They're on your social media, they're in the sidebars of news articles, they are literally everywhere.
And it's so specific that most of us jump to the same conclusion. My phone has to be listening to my conversations. But the truth? Well, the system that's actually tracking you is way more subtle and honestly a lot more powerful than a simple microphone could ever be.
So, let's get into it. Let's start by really unpacking that creepy ad feeling and see how it actually works.
Okay, so what is really going on behind the curtain? It's called online ad tracking. And at its core, it's just a massive, massive information gathering operation. The goal is pretty simple. Build a detailed picture of what you're into so companies can show you ads you're more likely to actually click on.
And look, it's not some single all-powerful spy tool. It's better to think of it like a detective gathering clues. The system builds this digital profile of you by collecting lots and lots of tiny signals: what you Google, the websites you go to, the links you click, even how long you pause on a particular page. Every single action you take is like a tiny little breadcrumb you leave behind on your digital trail.
To really get our heads around this, let's use an analogy. I want you to imagine the entire internet as one gigantic shopping mall. So you walk into this physical mall, you pop into a shoe store, you check out some hiking boots, the store manager, quietly makes a note that you're interested. But here's the crazy part. As you walk out, that manager basically radios every other store in the mall to let them know. So when you wander into the bookstore a few minutes later, the clerk is already there, ready to recommend a book on the best hiking trails. That's online tracking in a nutshell. It's just happening at the speed of light across the entire globe.
So if the internet is this giant mall, what tools are these digital storekeepers using to share all this information about us? Let's open up the Trackers Toolkit and take a look inside.
First up, we've got the most famous tool in the kit, cookies. Now, these are just small text files that get stored in your web browser. Some of them are actually pretty helpful. They remember your login or what you left in your shopping cart. But others, known as third-party cookies, they have a different job. They're designed specifically to follow you from site to site, reporting back on everything you do.
Next, we have something that's way sneakier, tracking pixels. Imagine a tiny, invisible dot, literally 1 pixel by 1 pixel, that's hidden on a website or in an email. You can't see it, but as soon as your browser loads it, it's like a silent alarm goes off, sending a report back to a server that says, yep, they visited this page, or they opened this message.
And now for a technique that is really clever and frankly a little unnerving: browser fingerprinting. This thing can identify you even if you block all those cookies. It works by piecing together dozens of little technical details about your device, like your exact screen size, your browser version, the fonts you have installed, and it combines them to create a digital fingerprint that's so unique it can be used to follow you all across the web.
So who's connecting all these dots? Well, that's where the giant ad networks come in, run by companies like Google and Meta. You can think of them as the central nervous system for online advertising. They're the ones gathering all this data from millions and millions of websites to recognize your patterns, no matter where you go online.
Okay, so we've seen how they track us. We've seen the tools. But that brings up an even bigger question. Why? I mean, why is this massive, incredibly complex system even in place? Just to show us some ads.
The short answer, it's all about business. It's about maximizing sales. See, by showing you ads for products you've already shown an interest in, companies get more clicks, and more clicks, well, that leads to more sales. The whole system is just designed for maximum efficiency. And of course, maximum profit.
But here's a really key distinction to make. For the most part, the system doesn't actually care that you are Jane Smith. It's much more interested in you as an anonymous profile, let's call it user number 12345. It knows this user is a shoe enthusiast, is probably between 25 and 34, and lives in a city. It's tracking patterns of behavior, not necessarily your personal real-world identity.
So we have the how and we have the why. But what does all of this really mean for us as regular people just trying to use the internet? Let's just step back for a second and look at the bigger picture.
At its heart, this is the fundamental bargain of the entire modern internet. This ad-supported model is what pays for almost everything we enjoy for free online: our social media feeds, our search engines, our free news apps. The price we pay for all this incredible free stuff is our data. And that, of course, raises some huge questions about privacy and who really controls our digital lives.
You know, it's all summed up in this one famous saying from the tech world. If you're not paying for the product, your data often is. And that one sentence just perfectly captures the entire business model of the modern web.
And so this leaves all of us with a pretty big question to think about. As you browse the web today, just think about this trade-off. Is all the convenience, the connection, the endless free information, is it really worth the price of your data profile? It's a question with no easy answer, and honestly, one that's becoming more important every single day.